Good evening. How's everyone? Okay, well, great. I'm great too. So it's so nice to see everyone here this evening. We appreciate you coming out. One of the priorities is to build a positive culture in our school system. Not that we don't have one, but we can always be better and we can always be more positive. And it's so good to have our parents. We want our parents involved in our school system. We want our community involved in our school system. And just appreciate you being here and your interest in what we're doing tonight. And again, we're just we're going to ask you for your input. We're here to do little talking and let you to do most of the talking so we can consider what it is that you are interested in seeing us do. So a couple of elected officials here. Commissioner Carson Daly, I'd like to recognize Carson, and a huge supporter of our school district, and we appreciate his service on County Commission. Also not elected yet, but Stephanie Welch, who's running for City Council, is here with us this evening, so appreciate you being here, Stephanie. And then also representing our school board, Amber Roundtree is our board member representing South Knoxville. And at this time, I think I'll just let Amber, I think she wants to make a few comments. So I'll turn it over to Amber.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. And I guess I'm the sole board member here tonight. I know we have, as board members, all have lots on our plates. And before we get started tonight, I just want to say thank you to all the central office folks that have worked really hard to put this information together. So Russ Oakes is going to be presenting the information to you. And I saw Dr. Grubb somewhere. Oh, he's hiding back in the back. Dr. Grubb from Transportation. And, of course, our PR team that helps make all this happen. And special thanks to Lana and the folks at Dogwood for opening their doors to us. And so, basically, tonight, Russ is going to walk you through things. But just to piggyback on Bob's comment about the positive culture. So, when we had done our rezoning for our middle schools, one of the top comments that we heard across the board was trying to align our feeder patterns and make our schools more community oriented. So this is partially in response to that request. And so I really don't have anything else to add tonight. If you have questions later on, you're welcome to email me. I'm amber.roundtree@knoxschools.org. Call me. And the information will also be uploaded to the web, right, Carly? Oh, and this is being streamed live, so hey, everybody watching at home. Or if you want to rewatch it later, if you can't sleep at night, if you have insomnia, it will be available to look at later, and the PowerPoint information will also be available. So I'm going to try and keep it brief, and I know Russ is going to take over.
And I'll be brief as well.
Oh, you're mic'd. You have a special mic.
We're good.
Don't let me keep a hold of it.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I just want to take about 5 to 10 minutes to walk through a couple of slides and give everybody some context for our conversation here tonight. And what I want to do is spend more time listening to you than you all do listening to us. And as most of you know, we went through a pretty extensive rezoning process last fall and winter for our middle schools. And we heard some things during that process that were not necessarily related to the middle school zoning process, and we said, okay, let us take that, and then we'll come back later and talk about that. And this is one of those things that came up, and as Ms. Roundtree said, there was some discussion about aligning zones and feeder patterns and those type of things. But we also heard, particularly from the East Knoxville community, was we want to do what we can to see if we can bring our kids to school closer to where we live. And as we looked at some of that, we were looking at how school zones are divided across the river that separates East Knoxville and South Knoxville, and how we've pulled those zones together over the last 25 years or so. So that's really what we're talking about right now. When we went back and looked at that as it affected the elementary schools, it affected largely the Dogwood Elementary Zone, and that's why we looked at that. We've also, in addition to that, if I can make the computer work. Ah, there we are. Okay. So some of the other requests that we heard, we had some requests to look at the Island Home area in particular, and perhaps rezoning that to South Knoxville Elementary School. We also had some requests, or we didn't have a request. We looked at it and thought that we may need to do some rezoning around this area. This is the Gateway Lippencott area that's currently zoned to South Knox Elementary School. And I'll show you those areas here in just a second. Is that going to work back there? Okay. These are the current zones, just to give you some sort of geography. This is Green Elementary School and its zone right here. This is Sarah Moore Green Elementary School, and its zones run right down through here. You can see the river as it splits this area. This is the Dogwood Elementary Zone here, and this is the eastern portion of the South Knoxville Elementary School Zone, just to sort of orient you to the terrain. So the areas that we're talking about this is the area that is north of the river that is currently zoned to Dogwood Elementary School. And about 20, 25 years ago, when the last rezoning process in the area took place, as I understand it, I would stand to be corrected, but as I understand it, this area was zoned to the other elementary schools, Green and Sarah Moore Green. And I think there was some interest in the community as we were talking to see about whether this area could be zoned back to those schools or not. This is what we're calling the Island Home area. I don't know that it has, I don't know specifically where the Island Home line starts and where the Island Home line ends, but for the purposes of this discussion, we've basically laid out the area between the river, and this line here follows the railroad tracks that run down through that area to sort of capture some geography to look at. And this is the area that is in the southwestern portion of the currently South Knoxville Elementary School zone. And to give you a little orientation, this is Chapman Highway, and this is the Dogwood zone as it currently runs around through here. These are the hills above Chapman Highway there. We've got, I believe it's back here, the Henley Apartments, and then there's some largely student apartments down in here, I believe. Right now, we don't show anything in the records where we have any students in that area right now. It's very sparsely populated with residential property. However, there is a large development supposed to be going on here in this area. It's going to be a multifamily development that the MPC tells us could generate as many as, I believe, 60 elementary students. So while we've got the opportunity to look at that, while no one lives there, we were looking at whether that would be a good option to zone that to Dogwood Elementary School, where we have a lot of capacity available to us. So as you can look, I just want to sort of show you this so you understand what our current situations with the school are, and these numbers are a few weeks old, but the enrollment today won't vary too much from that. So you can see Dogwood enrollment is it's 574, and we're looking at a maximum capacity of 711 students. Dogwood has been that big before in the past. And I'll tell you how we get to these capacity numbers. is we look at all the classrooms the school has, and we figure 22.5 students per classroom. And why 22.5? Well, the state tells us our BEP limit for grades K1 and 2 is 20 to 1, 20 students to 1 teacher. And then our limit for grades 3, 4, and 5 is 25 to 1. So to try to get an average, to try to get a number to work with, we work with 22.5. And then we reduce that number by 15%. So what we're looking at and what we're calling maximum capacity, or capacity, is 85% of the maximum, which gives you a little flexibility to work with because students don't come in nice even packages of 20 or 25 or even 22.5. So you can see Dogwood is currently 574 enrollment. Green is 351 with a capacity of 561. Saramore Green 537 with capacity of about 673. And South Knoxville is currently 127 with capacity of about 168 students. So that's what we're working with here. Whoop. Let's go backwards. Some of the things that we consider when we have these discussions are the school student capacities, which we just went through, the geography and the obstacles that we have to deal with. And you know, some of the biggest obstacle that we have to deal with in this part of the county is the river, and how we can cross the river, and understanding how we can build contiguous school zones that allow us to transport across the river and avoid some of the other obstacles that we've got, like the railroad tracks that I talked about a little bit earlier. We are prohibited by statute from developing school zones that are not contiguous. For example, we can't take a little island out and say this is going to go to XYZ school over here, but everything around it goes to ABC school over here. The zones have to be contiguous in order to meet the letter of the statute. Talked about transfer access and obstacles. One of the other things we always talk about whenever we do a rezoning is grandfathering. And what grandfathering is, it just allows students who are in an area that may be rezoned to have some options about whether they want to finish their educational career, so to speak, at the school that they're currently enrolled in, or they want to go ahead and move to the school to which they were zoned, and how we put that together. So what we're really here for today is to hear your all's comments and concerns and suggestions around any kind of rezoning activity or the rezoning activities that I had discussed there, or if there's something else in that area that we've missed or not discussed that you'd want us to think about. So, so what I'm going to do is Abby is going to bring around and Amber is going to bring around mics too. We can probably hear everybody in this room, but we're broadcasting on several cable outlets. So in order to hear the questions, we need to speak into a mic. Before I take the first question, Reverend Butler, I want to know who I'm talking to and how we can pull this together. And I saw a lot of badges out here. And just how many folks are staff at one of the schools that we talked about? Okay. How many folks have kids in one of the schools that we talked about? Okay. Okay. What about grandkids? Okay. Is there anybody in a group I missed that wants to make sure we know, what you represent or who you represent? Okay, thank you. Reverend Butler.
I'm John Butler, president of the Knoxville branch NAACP, and we had questions about this when we did the middle school zoning. I did not see how many students are we talking about in the area north of the river that may be rezoned for green or
We're not looking, in the area north of the river
Right.
that could be
You had
rezoned.
the area,
Yeah,
that first area you looked at.
Yeah, let me back up. I can tell you in this map here, you can look at it, and you can see all of those dots represent a student. And in multi-student homes, those dots could be on top of one another, but I can tell you there's about 112 there, 112, 114, something like that. Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Yeah, Christopher Deal. Seen the hands that were raised here. A lot of staff are here. That area that you're referring to for rezoning, what is the process of educating those parents on what you're talking about this evening? Because most of those parents are not here. And the response, and I'm sorry, but there's response of those parents, what's going to happen is, from my experience working with those parents, they're going to respond after they get that letter saying their child is going to a different school, not be proactive on it. So what, as a district, we talk about community, culture, building a positive community. How are we going to educate them prior to so they can have input?
Let's understand, we haven't made any decision at this point. We don't even have a proposal at this point. These are some of the things that have been suggested, and that's what we want to hear back from folks about what they think the viability of this is, or the need of this is, or if there are concerns about this. I can tell you that we have done outreach to everybody in the dogwood zone and sent out school messenger messages to reach people for the meeting tonight. But if there are other ways you all would like to do it, tell me. Beg your pardon?
There has to be a better way.
Okay.
For that plan, those parents are.
Okay, so I'm open to suggestions.
Quite honestly, that was one of my concerns, simply because when I saw the email that was sent out, this grew out of a East Knoxville discussion, but then you have the discussion outside of East Knoxville. So I think having a meeting in that community, whether it be at one of the elementary schools, middle school, or even a church that's right there on Wilder Baptist Church. Now, I'm not the pastor, so I can't invite you, but I'm saying, you got Leni Sini United Methodist Church on the corner there. But if you had it in the community where the parents were, because as you said, there are some parents who lack transportation, and the closer you have it to home, the more likely you are to have some parents that would be there that could voice how they feel about it. But I think that's a very good question. And that's been our concern. Our concern is that even when we were at Vine, you had a packed house, and it was that community at that time speaking for this. So why not go back? And I think the commitment, as I remember, was that you were coming back to East Knoxville and you were going to speak on this in East Knoxville.
Well, and that's as we were looking at it, normally what we do is we've had our meetings in the schools that are affected by the zoning, but that's something we can go back and talk about and take a look at, because these are the people we want to hear from. Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm Scarlett Hopkins. I'm a teacher here. I'm kind of curious as to why we were zoned the way we're zoned now to begin with. Was there a purpose for the previous zoning, and has it somehow failed that purpose that we now have to go and rezone again? I'm just confused about why it's all happening to begin with.
As it's my understanding, the current zones exist as they were developed in response to an OCR complaint about 25 years ago. Office of Civil Rights complaint, and it was part of that action. I wasn't here, and I can't give you the details on it and why it was put together. I think there was just some concern about how our schools were demographically situated and based on race primarily. And
So
that's,
are we going to have this problem again when I can be really loud.
I can,
I'm sorry. Are we going to have this problem if we rezone now and go back to those zones?
I think the case law has changed since that zoning was done, so it gives some more options. The reason we're talking about this is members of the community came to us and said, we want to examine this. So I don't necessarily know that it would be a problem. But
I'm just curious. I mean, it's going to directly impact the culture in our school now, and we've worked really hard to have a diverse culture here at Dogwood, and we're a family. So when you talk about rezoning, you basically are talking about breaking our family apart. So I wanted to know where this came from and where it's headed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Russ?
As Abby, Reverend Butler has some history on that.
Russ, can you also talk a little bit more after Reverend Butler finishes about the grandfathering? Because I think that's important that folks understand what the grandfathering actually looks like, because I think that
Will do.
would address maybe one of the questions.
Okay.
I don't mind speaking to that, and quite honestly, I can only give you a perception because I wasn't here in 1991 either. And so I can go by what the research that we did in terms of looking at what was in the previous OCR complaint, how Knox County schools plan to respond to it, and then what others I've talked to who were here at that time. And what it was to have racially diverse schools. What happened over the last 25 years is that you will see that you have kids that live in majority African American communities being bused to white communities, but you don't see it the other way around. You don't see kids being bused to African American schools to have them racially balanced. So what you have is an unfair system where you have these kids who live closer to schools in their community being bused outside of their community to other schools, where you don't see that in other communities. And we've looked at that throughout the city, where you have those communities, those neighborhoods that are being bused to schools that are closest to them, or because of the natural or man-made barriers that have been placed transportation-wise, it's just best for them to go to one school or another. This was based purely on race. And so the concern that the NAACP has, as well as those who was raised by community residents to us, is that we really don't want to be responsible for making schools racially diverse. In fact, we believe that if you really looked at zoning schools, you may find out that there are parts of Knoxville that are just not racially diverse. And so they're going to have community schools that reflect their communities. And then you have others that if you were to zone them, fairly, you would have diverse communities. So that's the reason why when we looked at this, we said we wanted zoning that gave our communities the same things that other communities had, and that was good, strong community schools. And I do hear what you say. We want every school to have that feeling of family, that feeling of community. But these kids have to get on buses really early to come over here, where some of them wouldn't have to if they went to these other schools. And and once again, I said that is a perspective. That is not the answer.
Can our speakers stand too? Stand? Okay. I'm Lana Lowe, and I'm the principal here. And I just wanted to make a comment about the grandfathering. Even though I appreciate that option, a lot of those families would not have reliable transportation. So if there was a grandfathering clause, would transportation be provided here?
When we developed grandfathering, we have never provided transportation for grandfathering.
So that would not be an option probably for many of those families.
Okay, yeah, and so everybody understands what we're talking about, grandfathering, and Ms. Roundtree asked me to talk a little bit more about that. There are different ways to grandfather. The way we have traditionally considered grandfathering in our elementary schools is allowing rising 4th or 5th graders to grandfather and stay at their school. That presents some challenges for families that may have siblings in the lower grades in those schools. And so at times we have discussed a sibling grandfather process as well, but we don't provide transportation for grandfathers because it would put us in a position to have to run buses 2 ways down the same street, and it would be chaos for us to try to manage.
Well, and then another comment is, if I'm not mistaken, most of those neighborhoods are only, is that about 3 miles from here or so?
That's,
I
Dr.
think
Grubb, you? 3?
Yeah, so I think the bus run is only about a 5-minute run from here, so I don't think that our kids are getting up super early to get on the bus or on the bus for a long period of time. We actually have other buses that go to other neighborhoods, and kids are on those buses longer.
We'd have to go back and
So-
check. We pick up elementary early.
You do pick up elementary early, but those kids are not being picked up any earlier than kids on other buses or bus stops, from what if I'm correct.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Amy Long. I'm also a teacher here. I understand that they're not wanting to bus these kids to diversify, but being at the closest school is not something that doesn't just happen here. I mean, there are plenty of kids at other elementary schools that are way farther. My own children attend Hardin Valley High School, which is 6 miles from my house. Bearden is 4, Carnes is 3, and they bus to Hardin Valley. It happens at Ritta, it happens at Carnes, it happens at Ball Camp, it happens here. I mean, we're closer. We've got kids at Moreland Heights that are closer to us, but they're at Moreland Heights. So it's not just the ethnicity that's causing that busing.
Okay.
And Gloria Deathridge is here.
And I'm the school board member, District 1, and I understand what you're saying. I think, but his comment was not necessarily all about busing. It's about kids being bused for racial balance out of their communities. So I understand if it's 3 miles, 2 miles, or whatever. The purpose back when it happened was for racial violence. And now, when I worked for the census, and I understand now you got a little bit of diversity in a lot of communities that you didn't have 25 years ago. So I don't think it's going to completely take away all the diversity in the school. I think, though, it's going to make kids that don't have to get up to catch a bus, whether it's 2 or 3 miles, they can walk to school. And the parents can, you know, be a little bit more involved, because a lot of parents don't have transportation to get here for things that may be going on in the school. So these are some of the comments that came from the parents in the community when they had the middle school rezoning. So we're just, I think Russ and the school is just trying to listen and hear what the community has to say now. But that was probably 25 years ago, and it was for racial balance. And so now people are just re-looking at that and see if they're still applicable and what we can do to make more kids stay closer to their homes when they get ready to go back to school.
Hi, my name is Julie Ferrara, and I am a very proud Dogwood parent. Go Fidelis. And I was just curious about the map. You were mentioning contiguous requirements. If we did not change the part north of the river, would that mean that the island home people who are wanting their kids to go to South Knoxville would not be able to, because it would make the part north of the river no longer contiguous with the rest of Dogwood?
That would be a consideration that we would have to look at. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Cindy Sanford, Assistant Principal here at Dogwood. My question is, what is the racial makeup of these potentially rezoned students? What is that research saying?
Oh, well, if I can get there. These students here?
Yes, what is that racial?
Predominantly African American, is it not, Dr. Grant?
Almost all of them.
Yep.
Yep.
My name is Tommy Smith. We live in Island Home Airport Island Home neighborhood that you highlighted earlier. My only comment would be is one of affirmation for that community to be able to have our kids go to South Knox Elementary. Proximity-wise, it makes sense for us. We would like to walk and bike our kids to school. It is part of the natural flow of, I guess, our community and traffic patterns and I guess general outdoor activity and social interaction down along Sevier Avenue. All of those things kind of play into the daily lives, at least for most of the folks in our neighborhood that I can speak to. Just so from a practical reality of somebody who has kids in that neighborhood, it makes more sense for us in all kinds of practical ways, but also socially. Our community is that community, so it would be really important for us. We have a 4.5-year-old who's not ready just yet, but they're zoned for Dogwood at the moment.
Hi, I'm Celeste. I live in Island Home, and I just kind of want to follow up with what Tommy said. We transferred our kindergartner from Dogwood to South Knoxville. It's going really well this year, but before I was a parent to a kindergartner, I was a volunteer in the schools in both Dogwood through Junior Achievement and in South Knoxville with the Great Schools Partnership. And in both places, I saw an environment that my kids could thrive, and I was really excited about sending our kids to either one of these schools. But we ended up going through the transfer process, and that worked out for us because we could walk there someday, we could bike there someday. Maybe when our kid is old enough and responsible enough, he could bike there someday. We'll see, crossing fingers. So just kind of want to share that experience and that rezoning that we made in our house, yes. And there's a lot of support from neighbors. There's also a lot of neighbors who have sent their kids to Dogwood and been happy. So this isn't a desired kind of move away from Dogwood in our neighborhood. It's just kind of more of a community feel and to kind of send our kids to a school that feels more like a natural part of our community.
Other comments? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Tracy Thompson. I teach here also. I was just wondering on the Island Home parts, how many students that would pertain to?
That area that we're showing on the map is about 45 students that are in Knox County schools. They're not all in Dogwood. They're spread out in a number of different schools. Some are in Dogwood, and some are in some of our other magnet schools or other schools around the county on transfer for one reason or another.
So how many, if they switch that, because part of the zone, I think part goes to Dogwood, part goes to South Knox, is that right? For Island
No, ma'am.
Homes?
It goes to Dogwood.
All goes to Dogwood, so it'd be about 45 students?
Not initially. There are 45 Knox County schools registered students, plus or minus, in that area. A fraction of those go to Dogwood. Others go to other schools in the county on transfer. Probably the most predominant one of those is Beaumont Elementary School because of the magnet program over there.
Because I was wondering, I was looking at the current enrollment and the capacity there, and if it looks like that would take South Knoxville almost right up to that capacity level if it all changed.
It could come close, yes, ma'am, if all of those students indicated they wanted to come back there.
I would wager a guess 10 to 15 students
I'm Carolyn Williams, and I'm a resident of Island Home Park, and I also volunteer at South Knoxville Elementary. And I'm the vice president of the Neighborhood Association. There's approximately 96 children in Island Home Park from the ages of 16 to birth. And there's a large population of birth to 7 right now. There's a whole slew of little ones that are under 5, actually, that aren't even in school yet. So yours is included in that. But when my son went to school, he was zoned for South Knoxville Elementary. And our kids actually can walk from our houses to school without ever getting in a car. So that's something that's very positive. And I've known people who have worked at Dogwood, right there is one of them. And I know that the people at Dogwood are very dedicated. I've heard good things about you guys. And South Knoxville is equally as good. So that there's no argument about that. But I do understand why parents don't want to have to drive their children to school or put them on a bus. Because mine was put on a bus, but that was by choice. And just added, right now, off the top of my head, and some of you guys that live in Island Home Park may know this better than I do, but right now, most of the kids are going to Dogwood, South Knoxville, Beaumont, or private school. Those are the 4 main places that they are attending.
Yeah, and just so everybody's clear on the numbers, the number I'm talking about is K-5 students enrolled in Knox County schools, which are the only ones that we have 100% fidelity on.
I'm Jessica from Dogwood, and I understand all the concerns that we've talked about tonight about riding and stuff, but what I'm concerned about is where are all those kids going to be zoned for? The ones, not Island Homes, the ones that are across the river.
There would have to be some discussion on that, but the logical place would be some sort of division between Green and Sarahmore Green elementary schools.
Because that's a lot of kids, and coming from all of us teachers that love and support those kids, we know a lot of them are already having trouble in school and already need all the support they can get, and sending 100 and something, to make where Sarahmore Green is more at meeting capacity. I was just curious on how we're going to support those kids. Are we going to have bigger classrooms? Are there going to be bigger classrooms where they're going to be supported like they are if they were more spread out between all the schools, so we could love and give the one-on-one attention that we could give them and all the support we could give them? So I was just curious on that.
And that would have to be a consideration in that decision-making process.
I didn't see that as one of the considerations
Yep.
on the page. We're looking at, where they are closest to, how they can get there and all that, but we're really needing to pay attention to how are we making sure that all of them are successful in this move as well.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Quenika, and I work at the Urban League. I'm our education director. I am currently a Green Magnet parent. I have been a Sarahmore Green parent, a Dogwood parent, and a South Knox Elementary parent. And I must say, from the bottom of my heart, I believe all of these schools are very much so capable of supporting all of the children. Each of these schools is a community school, and all of these schools have the adequate resources and the support to support all these children. I know that having students who lived in Morningside, who had siblings who came all the way across the river, it was difficult for them to participate in after-school programming over here because parents didn't have adequate transportation. So with Sarahmore Green and Green both being community schools, those students have the ability to participate in the after-school programming that they didn't have here. So while I know we love these kids and nobody ever wants to lose their kids, and I know how terrible it can feel, and I don't want anybody to have the perception that Dogwood's a bad school. I transferred my son to South Knox because it was a smaller school and because they had after school. And then I transferred him to Green because I have a bus and I moved to North Knoxville. So I just want everybody to I know it's kind of the tension in here, but I know that, Dogwood's a great school, South Knox is a great school, Green and Sarahmore Green are all great schools, and everybody loves these kids as much as they want to. But it's really difficult for a lot of our parents in East Knoxville to get their kids over here and pick them up when they get ill. I can't tell you how many times we've had parents call for assistance to get their kids picked up from school when they get sick. So I just want us to be considerate of the fact that there are parents who are in different socioeconomic areas, not just racially, but also economically, and have access issues, and they aren't able to necessarily come over and have the same outreach that a lot of other parents have on this side of the river.
And I just want to say that now we're a community school, and so now we offer transportation after school. So we definitely have an opportunity now for those children to come to our after-school programs and have a way to get back to where they're going. So I just, yeah, that's it. Right. But, well, I think maybe when your baby was here, we didn't have after-school transportation. So maybe we do now. Just a commercial.
Anybody else? Well, yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Brian Notes. I'm a Dogwood parent, and my wife is also a teacher here. Oh, sorry. It's been really enlightening, I think, to hear from everybody, because I had no. It seems like everybody's really passionate about what they think should happen, and I know it's difficult to just draw lines because somebody's going to be upset. And I guess I think I'm just asking this because I want to know. It seems like there's a trend now to think that the kids should go to the school that is their community, but it seems like that's the way it was a long time ago, and there were obvious problems with that, and it seems like we might be headed that way, especially with a large portion of the East Knoxville students going to predominantly black schools. And I mean, if that's what they want, it seems like that's what they should have, but it seems like the opposite direction of, if you're someone like me who believes in equality in education, like it seems like the opposite direction of where we should go. So I guess I don't have the answer. I'm just trying to figure out, well, how do we keep equality in education while letting kind of our schools resegregate, I guess is my question.
Yep. Abby, I think Reverend Butler had another comment he wanted to make.
I just wanted to make sure that, and that's a good statement. I think that's a very valuable statement. The concern that a number of people had and still have is getting good quality education where you live and being able to go to schools that are in your community. The problem, quite honestly, was separate but equal. It was separate and unequal, number one. And number two, you was forcing kids to get on a bus because of their race, but you was driving past the school in your neighborhood to go to a school that was black because they wouldn't let you go to a school that was white. That was a major problem. So here what we're saying is that people in this community, and I live in that blue dotted community, people in that community saying, why can't we have a good school that has all the things that you say that Dogwood has? And the reason why I know that Dogwood has them is because we have a grandchild that's here, and our daughter was here. So we have much respect. In fact, my wife picked up the grandson today. So it's not that we don't believe in Dogwood or any other school. It's simply that we know that the parents in these communities, the citizens of these communities have said, why can't we have good community schools like everyone else? And that's how simple it is. So, the best way for us to have diverse schools is for us to have diverse communities. But until that all happens, then what we can make sure of is that the kids have an opportunity to go to school in their communities.
I guess, were there any more comments? I don't want to not miss anything. Yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner Carson, I've been to every elementary school. I've been to our only middle school, and I've been to our high school. I can remember before 91, we had 2 high schools, we had 2 middle schools, we had community schools. We lost that in 91. you don't, I'm privileged to know that I have parents that live in 7 Islands that have kids that get on a bus for an hour and a half to go to the middle school. Is that fair to them? Then they get on a bus for an hour and a half to go back home. I've talked to Superintendent Thomas and the other Thomas, Superintendent Thomas, and I've spoken to the mayor, putting a bug in his ear. I would love to see 2 high schools and 2 middle schools back here. Like it was. I graduated from Doyle in '78, and South Young was my enemy. They were my enemy. I can tell you, we are the same size as the 8th District, Carter Community. Carter Community has Carter and Gibbs. They got 2 schools, 2 high schools, and soon to be 2 middle schools. Then we go to Halls. Then we go to Powell. Then we go to Carnes. Then we go to Hardin Valley. Then we go to Farragut. Then we go to Bearden. Then we go to West. To me, those are community schools. We are huge here. We are 45,000 people south of the river, going to 1 middle school and to 1 high school. Now, are we at the point now to be a 1 middle or 2 middle schools and 2 high schools? Not at this time. But I hope in 10 years we got a decision to make again, that we get to have 2 high schools and 2 middle schools again. And I don't have to hear Gap Creek, 7 Islands, all those things. My son and daughter has got to be up at 6:30 to catch a bus to come all the way to the middle school. I would rather them be there in 30 minutes at their middle school over there. But I hear, I am so fortunate. Every middle school, every elementary school I go to, I hear the same thing that you all just said. It's your kids. They are proud. I'm telling you, South Knoxville is awesome. We got great principals. We got great teachers. We got a great middle school. So anybody tells you that the middle school is a bad middle school, you tell them to come see me, because I will be more than happy to spend a whole day with them at the middle school. Andrew Brown is doing a fantastic job. Our high school, Principal Berry and his assistant principals, they're doing a great job. Do we have problems? Sure. Everybody's got problems. If we didn't have problems, we wouldn't need the experts to come in and tell us how to fix our problems. But you know who the experts really are? Teachers. Sometimes we don't listen to the teachers. But tonight, there's one very, very important voice that's being left out. And I understand what Dr. Butler's saying. I would love to see all these kids attend their school in their home district and be able to walk to their school. I believe in that. I believe in Gap Creek being able to go to a middle school closer to their home. But we got to listen to a student. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know what the answer is. I'll probably cry. Miss Friedrichs, did I say that right? I was at her reading cafe, and there was 3 students, 2 little boys and a little girl that live over nearby somewhere. And I thought, I don't know if I should ask this question or not, but I did. I said, you go to school here, wouldn't you rather go to school near your home? All 3 had the same answer. They said no. You know why they said no? And I'm sorry, I don't want to embarrass you or anything. They said that I can learn here. That's what their answer was. So my suggestion is that, we listen to the kids too. Let's make sure that we involve the kids. And I will see these 3 children Friday. We got another writing cafe Friday, and I'll get to speak to them and talk to them again. One little girl, I'm going to have to tell her that, no, I cannot pass a law that she gets to stay up to midnight. That's not going to happen. I cannot override a parent. So, but we have got great schools. Dogwood is a great school. Moreland Heights. Bonnie Kate's probably the best out there. There's no doubt. But I am so I am so proud to serve South Knoxville. It's unbelievable that the teachers that we got that care so much, and the principals, the leaderships out of every principal that we've got. It's like I said, you all don't get to go to all nine schools. I don't think you do, but if you have an opportunity, you will see the same. There's not much difference at all, except for maybe number-wise, between here and Gap Creek and Moreland Heights. All the teachers love their children. All the principals love their teacher. And that's what we've got, and that's what we need to be. We're proud of it. And I'm proud of my middle school, and I'm proud of my high school. And I'm tired of hearing people say, I want to send my kid to Seymour, or I want to send my kid to Maryville because of the middle school. I don't listen to that no more. I tell them, no, you come with me to the middle school, meet Mr. Brown, spend a day with us over there, and then maybe you'll change your mind. So hopefully that in 10 years, we get to have 2 high schools again and 2 middle schools, and we get to go through this situation again, and it will be, I know I live in the past. Who was it? Someone said a minute ago about living kind of in the past. I do live in the past because we did have great schools. South Dole was a great school. South Young was a great school. And I want that back again. I don't want to see kids being bused. I would rather see kids get on a bicycle, on a sidewalk, and walk or ride to school. I would rather see that. And so I'm proud of every last one of you. I just want to say that. Oh, there you go.
We got time for a few more. Yep.
I would just agree with a couple sentiments. I would agree with a couple sentiments that were, a couple things that were suggested, that maybe this meeting take place in the neighborhood across the river if possible. I don't know if door to door is the solution or not, but I think those parents need to be heard if they're not here tonight. I think that's a wise thing. I respect all the teachers. I love my 4.5-year-old has an opinion probably about which school he'd want to go to, but I do think it's important that the parents be heard here and there. So if that's a manual effort by this group to go knock on doors over there, let's all build that community that way. But I think those folks need to be heard as well. There you go.
Hi, Jamie Code. I work here on staff at Dogwood. And my bottom line question is this, if this is truly an issue of location and being closer to these other schools, then are we going to make this consistent across Knox County? Piggybacking on what Amy said, that there are so many other schools where kids are going to schools farther away than the school that's closest to them. So if we're going to do this here and create this change in East Knoxville, is it going to be consistent across Knox County?
I'm Hope Fishburne. I'm an art teacher here at Dogwood, and I know that this is an academic consideration. I think people have alluded to it in a variety of comments that people have made. Every piece of research suggests that kids who go to more diverse schools benefit, that kids who go to more homogeneous schools, that there is no downfall to the school becoming more diverse. And I know this is kind of a utopian ideal, but I feel for the world that I want to live in the future, this is absolutely a necessity. And so when I see things becoming increasingly homogenous, I feel some caution. I think about what kids are taught as students. If you attend a diverse school, what reason do you have to think other than these are my friends, these are people who I work with, these are people who are equally smart, equally possible? And so when I hear these kinds of things, a warning bell goes off for me, because every piece of research coming out now suggests that although it's painful, although it often involves discomfort, distance, and other obstacles, if we want people to live in a diverse society in the future, the schools have to be diverse. And I feel like a lot of this is cloaked resegregation, and I'm wary of it.
Okay, thank you.
So my concern with this is economical. My daughter went to Sequoia Elementary, and now she's here. And Sequoia Elementary has raised over $1.2 million from their PTO that stays in the school. If we start now having more affluent families going into South Knoxville and not sending their kids to Dogwood, and those families could contribute to the PTO, which is already pretty sparse to begin with. Does that mean that we're also going to be losing some of that financial benefit? And if these children who are north of the river are going to a school, or their parents who can't drive here, then they can't contribute to their PTO financially. And so I just feel like the bigger issue here is really the redistribution of wealth across the schools, and why it's acceptable for Sequoia to have $1.2 million that they've accumulated in their PTO when Dogwood has less than 20,000 right now. And I think, to me, that's a bigger issue. So you get my point. And so I feel like if the school north of the river, and I hate saying north or south of a river, because come on, y'all, that just sounds bad. But if they had finances, we wouldn't be worried about the quality of the education they're receiving there. And that is a much bigger issue to me than all of this. The money they need to invest in the children so they can have a successful future.
Thank you. Well, I guess I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing your thoughts tonight. We'll take all of those, and we'll go back and we'll discuss it, and we'll discuss about doing additional outreach and the necessity for that. I hear you, and I understand that. The other thing I want to make sure is if you and your neighbors out there, you want to provide us additional information or additional comment, we do have a website, rezoning@knoxschools.org, so you can send it there, and we'll roll all that up and look at that as well. And you've given us a lot to consider, a lot to discuss, and we'll do that and follow up with you as we go forward and let you know where we are in the process and what decisions, if any, are made. Okay, Mr. Thomas, have you got anything else you want to?
I think, Russ, you closed us up pretty good, so just wanted to say thank you again to parents and staff for coming out and expressing your thoughts and concerns to us. It is very important. No lines have been drawn at this point, so again, thank you, Commissioner Daly. Appreciate you being here, and school board members, Gloria Dethridge and Amber Roundtree. Appreciate you being here, and also we've got some central office staff. We'll hang around for a little while just in case you want to talk to any of us individually. So again, just appreciate you coming out tonight, and thank you so much for your input, and hope you have a great rest of the evening. And as Russ said, we've got a website, so email us, call us, and we'll be responsive. So thank you.